Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Well, the Supreme Court had heard oral arguments today regarding the Colorado case and Donald Trump, and it seems fairly universal amongst pundits and news agencies and such that the Supreme Court is going to rule in favor of Donald Trump and keep him on the ballot in Colorado. The only question is, what avenue are they going to take to justify keeping him on the ballot? I know I've done readings on this, and I kept telling... The thing I kept saying was that they were going to keep him on the ballot. I didn't know how they would do it, but I knew that they would get around to figuring it out. This is just one of those things. I think it was like J.S. Coolbritt pointed out that America doesn't have a justice system, we have a legal system. It's pretty obvious that Trump engaged in insurrection. To any reasonable person, he engaged in insurrection. So now the arguments come down to, how much teeth does apparently the 14th Amendment, Section 3 has no teeth whatsoever. It has none. Because if you can't hold Trump accountable to it, then what's the point of even having that amendment or that section of the amendment? It does nothing. It's worthless. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. That's not sour grapes. That's just the reality of it. Now, the arguments I heard the Supreme Court making are reasonable. It's like, who's Colorado to decide for the rest of the country? And that's a fair point. Just because Colorado got it first, does that mean they get to decide for the whole country? Well, that's kind of why we went to the Supreme Court with it, because what Colorado saw was different than what California saw, which was different than Wisconsin was seeing and all these other states. So, is the Supreme Court going to set forth guidelines on insurrection? Are they going to set definitions of what insurrection is? How you can... Maybe they should be required, if you're not going to convict him of it or basically support that he should be off the ballot, then you should probably come up with guidelines for this. Another argument is that basically a state shouldn't be able to dictate what's happening in a federal election. Oh, states' rights! I'm sure the Republicans will keep mum about this one, but the party of states' rights just got told states' rights don't matter. So which is it going to be? Can't wait for the fallout on this one in future cases. The next one is that lame argument that he's not really a president of the United States or an officer of the United States. Whatever. God, I hope they don't use that one. Another one was, what about when another state decides they don't want a candidate, say Biden in this case, and they boot him off? Judge Ketanji Jackson Brown just said, we're talking an insurrection here. And we're not talking popularity contest or we don't want Biden in Texas so we're going to get him off there. Yeah, go ahead, take him off. But you got to show that he engaged in insurrection or is not qualified to be the president for the other reasons. And I think they'd have a really hard time proving in court and through the appeals that Biden engaged in insurrection when he hasn't engaged in an insurrection. The speculation... And I don't know, it might have been on MSNBC. I was just on the podcast I was listening. They were cycling through the same story. Is the Supreme Court is creating an off-ramp for themselves so they don't have to rule on this case. If he committed insurrection, is disqualified. They're just going to knock back the Colorado case and say all these other things. But the other speculation was they've made an off-ramp for themselves, but they have no idea where it's going. So this is just going to be a hot mess, as is everything that seems to involve Donald Trump. Ends up being a hot mess. What's the takeaway message from this? It's the same thing that we've been hearing for the last 8+ years. There is nobody out there to save us. There's no leader that's going to save us. The court system's not going to save us. Politicians aren't going to save us. The only people that are going to save us is us. Flat out, period. There is no other choice with this matter. Your vote in November is the biggest vote that you can possibly do. So get out and vote. Vote like your democracy depends on it. Vote like your country and your freedoms depend on it, because pretty much they all do. I am so revolted and disgusted by the Supreme Court right now. I can't even really fully explain my frustration. Again, I knew that they were going to do it because that's what the cards kept telling me. I didn't know how they would do it, but that still doesn't change the fact that it's still wrong. What's the energy around this ruling today on the court case? Entertainment purposes only. I am not amused. 10 of Wands. Oh, I imagine it's a hard decision to make, a hard non-decision to make. But you are the Supreme Court. You're supposed to be the ultimate court in the land, the ultimate arbitrator of all things involving the Constitution in the United States. Nobody said it was going to be an easy job. And I guess that's part of my frustration is there's an expectation that they're going to step up to the plate and do the right thing, but they're not. Yeah, there's your off-ramp. They're going to find a technicality, kick it back, and declare victory. There's even speculation they could get all 9 justices agreeing that, Colorado can't decide for the rest of the country. I don't know. It's a minimum 6. It could be more than that. Yeah, they're... Wands. It's too difficult a decision to make. They'll find an off-ramp for themselves. And, maybe, if we're lucky, they will lay out some guidelines. The other part that was frustrating to me, they were saying, there's a provision in Amendment 14, Section 3, that says, basically, it lists out all the things that would disqualify you from being the president, including having previously taken an oath as an officer of the United States and then committed insurrection. But it says it could be overturned by a 2/3 vote of Congress. So what it's saying is that you can commit insurrection, but if you can convince 2/3 of Congress that it's okay for you to run for the presidency, then it's okay. Which means that if you did an insurrection, it's not okay to be the president. Right? That's kind of what it means. But some of the arguments that the lawyer representing Trump were making is that, well, it's not a categorical complaint. You can't categorize insurrection. It's like, yeah, you can. Absolutely you can. Not only can you do it, but they've even provided an avenue to get out of it. So where I'm going with this is that one of the arguments might be that, oh, well, Congress has to be the one that decides if he committed insurrection. Really? Congress gets to decide it. Congress gets to decide if it overrules. There's nothing in that amendment that says Congress has to decide it. There's no text whatsoever. Again, the frustration for me is the hypocrisy. You have all these conservative justices who are letter of the law, originalists on the Constitution. Here's a perfect example of it being in plain text, and they're looking the other way because it's politically convenient for them. And the Supreme Court's not supposed to be politically convenient. It's why you have lifetime appointments. If the lifetime appointments are basically saying that they cannot be apolitical, then we need to get rid of lifetime appointments. It's not working. In the past, we have 3 of Cups. I'm not celebrating. I think in the past, the Supreme Court was celebrated. At the pinnacle of the U.S. judicial system, the U.S. legal system, apolitical, working in the best interest of the country. Now, we can make arguments about that all we want, but I think generally speaking, they were held in high regard until they weren't. And the falling out of high regard has been in the last 10 to 15 years. Current situation, Knight of Pentacles. Now they've got something worthy of the Supreme Court to rule on, and they've had multiple things that they've had to rule on. And again, justice is not going to be served by their ruling. The evil chuckle is Clarence Thomas and his non-declared things for his taxes. The Federalist Society being rumored to paying off bills for justices on there. It looks like not only do they have to sort of carry a message here, but there's money involved with it. and it's undermining the celebration. Basically, money got involved into the Supreme Court. It's undermining what used to be a reputation. The overarching energy for this reading is the Hangman. Okay, maybe I'm being just too freaking bitter. The Supreme Court's bringing up some good points about what states can and cannot do. Disqualifying somebody from the insurrection. There's some practical points that if they do keep Trump off the ballot in Colorado, then it could cause problems later. And mind you, and I've said this before, Colorado, it doesn't matter if you kick Trump off the ballot in blue states. He's going to lose those anyways. If you kicked him off in red states, probably they'd write him in. Well, I should say, the red states would never kick him off, right? They're never going to kick him off. The blue states could kick him off. California kick him off. It doesn't matter. He wasn't going to win California anyways. It's the battleground states. The Wisconsin, the Michigans, the Pennsylvanias, the Floridas, the Arizonas, the Texases. Those states that are close to 50-50. You kick them off a couple of those, that changes the election. So, and again, Colorado, it's not as consequential. Colorado could go red, but it's mostly going to go blue. Again, if this was Michigan, if this was Wisconsin, if this was Pennsylvania or Georgia, Florida, Texas, states like that, yeah, this would be a huge decision. If he kicks him off Colorado, they kick him off Colorado. Colorado's likely going to vote blue anyways. So in the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. They're providing a new perspective, kind of looking at the 14th Amendment in a different way as opposed to the originalist text, which is what the conservatives would want you to look at. They have to look at the consequences, the unintended consequences of it. It really seems to me that there's got to be clarifications or updates. There's got to be another amendment to fix the amendment. Lesson to be learned is the Ace of Wands. Again, bitter David would say, yeah, don't give the Supreme Court the power to make a decision. They'll F it up. Maybe, if we're lucky, the Supreme Court's going to provide guidance on cases like this in the future. But right now, you cannot rely on the Supreme Court to get stuff done. It's going to be on you. You and me to get out and vote and make sure that Trump is not put in a position to turn the United States into an authoritarian government. The outcome is justice. That is the one thing that did not get served here. Justice was not served. The legal system worked, but justice was not served. Maybe we get justice in the future after some strong action is taken, after the amendments are re-reviewed and maybe amended. But it's going to take a while. And it would be great if it was bipartisan. So that's the energy there. I may not be in the right frame of mind to read on this one. I am so pissed off right now. I mean, literally, if they said, yeah, Colorado, keep them off, I think I might have a heart attack before Trump does. Because I'd be so stunned. Okay. For Carter, is Trump allowed to stay on the ballot in Colorado? I almost don't need to throw it. The answer is going to be yes. And that's not just being cynical or anything along those lines. He just is. Come on down. Let's see. Yeah, fighting with advantage. He's beaten off this challenge. It's a 6 of coins. 6s and 10s. Yeah. It's not even the Supreme Court that keeps him on the ballot. It's the fact that there wasn't enough strength in the arguments to take him off, to warrant taking him off the ballot. So, you wanted to end his run in that state. But in the end of the day, it's just not there. It's not the tradition of the United States to kick people off ballots. It's, the poor voters don't get the choice. And, it's one of those things, kind of the American mythology, that we want the voters to decide. Here's the thing, though. In the Constitution, in the amendments, I don't think the forefathers of this country, or the ones who came up with the amendments, ever considered propaganda in their arguments for the 14th Amendment. So I think the logic at the time, and it makes sense in non-propaganda events, is that people will understand what an insurrection is, and they would never, ever be so morally bankrupt as to support an insurrectionist running for the office of President of the United States. But propaganda is a real strong drug, isn't it? And, it's got people saying the sky is orange, up is down, left is right, and, trusting rumors and ivermectin over science in facts. God, it's, yeah. There's that big sigh. Yeah, I'm stressing here. It's a setback. It's a setback. Again, let's take a look at it this way. Will Biden win Colorado in the general election? You know what the hard part also is going to be of this? Is just hearing all these Trumpers crow. You're just going to have to take your licks with this one. They're going to be crowing at you. But that's all right. In the end of the day, I really don't think it's going to matter. Is Biden going to win Colorado in the general? There's Biden, King of Cups. What do we get? Some card, Truth. Grinding on. Trump underneath him. Message. I think, will Biden win Colorado? I think he's going to have momentum in there. Truth is on his side. People know that Donald Trump committed insurrection against the United States. And again, I do think, I'm hoping this is also the youth of America coming out not only to defend their rights, but the rights of their friends who are in the LGBTQ, women's rights, stuff along those lines. And I really, again, it's young people and women are going to drive Biden to victory. Because truth is going to overcome greed. The Republicans will do everything they can to stop it. But I do think Biden will at least get Colorado amongst other ones. So, as grumpy as I am with this, please don't despair. This is just a setback. It is not a loss. Trump has not won the election. Hell, he hasn't even secured his primaries yet. And we've got a number of court cases coming up. And, again, as grumpy as I am, in about a week or two's time when Judge Engoron levels his decision and we find out Trump's going to be paying hundreds of millions of dollars in disgorgement fees in New York, we'll be back on our high horses and high-fiving the world, okay? We'll get through this. Thank you, everyone, for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you for your likes and your shares and your comments and everything you do to help feed the YouTube algorithm so that my video makes it out to a wider audience. To folks just discovering this channel for the first time, welcome. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.